Isaiah Pola-Mao is officially staying with the silver and black. And who knows? Maybe Pete Carroll can help turn him into another great Samoan safety. But that's not all. There's big news coming out of Raider Nation. The Raiders are reportedly interested in trading for quarterback Matthew Stafford. But at what price? If this is your first time here and you love Raiders content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Also, excuse my voice, I had a wild weekend and barely got it back. But you know I had to show up today because we have some exciting news to talk about. First up, my guy Isaiah Pola-Mao is officially coming back. According to Ian Rappaport, the Raiders have signed him to a 2-year extension worth up to $8.45 million. Pola-Mao, a restricted free agent and nephew of Hall of Famer Troy Polamalu, started 14 games last season and even won AFC Defensive Player of the Week in Week 16. For me, this is amazing news, not just because he's a solid player, but because he's family. And yeah, I might be a little biased. Well, it's not just because he's family. I'm excited because the Raiders are locking in a young, up-and-coming safety who could become a key piece of this defense for years to come. Looking back at his journey, Isaiah Pola-Mao has continued to defy the odds. He first signed with the Raiders in 2022 as an undrafted free agent, spent time on the practice squad, then made the active roster in 2023. By 2024, he played in all 17 games, starting 14 of them. His stats? 89 total tackles, 5 pass deflections, 1 sack, and 2 forced fumbles. Solid production for a young safety. Now, if you look at the contract, it's clear that Pete Carroll values him. At $8.45 million over 2 years, the Raiders are showing confidence that he could be a starting safety heading into 2025. I know some people might question that, but Carroll has a history of developing great safeties. Whether it was at USC or with the Seattle Seahawks, his secondaries have always been stacked with talent. And let's not forget, Isaiah's uncle is Hall of Famer Troy Polamalu. Now, I'm not saying he'll be the next Troy Polamalu, but if Pete Carroll can help mold him into even half of what Troy was, the Raiders might have just found their safety of the future. Isaiah's best days are still ahead, and the fact that the Raiders brought him back now only proves that they have big plans for him in 2025. Now, just because the Raiders re-signed Isaiah Pola-Mao doesn't mean they won't bring back Trayvon Moehrig. I know some fans might be worried about that, but honestly, the Raiders should do everything they can to keep Moehrig as well. Pairing him up with Pola-Mao could solidify the secondary, and that doesn't mean they can't also draft another young safety to compete for a spot. With Patrick Graham returning as defensive coordinator, bringing back Isaiah was a smart move. And if they can lock in Moehrig too, that should be a top priority for the Raiders' defense. As for Marcus Epps, his future with the team looks uncertain after this signing. The Raiders might decide to move on from him. But real quick, here's a message from Isaiah Pola-Mao after signing his extension. Raider Nation, excited to keep going on this journey with y'all. Love this organization. Raiders. Now, let's talk about some major quarterback news. We've been discussing this for weeks now, and once again, there's a new name in the mix. According to Albert Breer, the Raiders are among several teams interested in trading for Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. The Giants, Browns, and Steelers are also in the conversation, but Las Vegas is definitely keeping an eye on the situation. Even Vinny Bonsignore doubled down on the report, and guess what? Tom Brady's influence as a part owner could play a role in recruiting Stafford to the Raiders. This is definitely something to keep an eye on. The Raiders' quarterback search just got more interesting. Free agency and the trade market are heating up, and you can't rule out Matthew Stafford as an option. Now, let's be real. The Raiders aren't Super Bowl ready just yet. But Pete Carroll made it clear in his first press conference. He wants to win now. He's not here for a rebuild. He wants to put the best team on the field right away. If the Raiders can actually compete, that's great news for Raider Nation, because we'd finally have something to get excited about. Carroll even said, "We've got to start right now and go after it. We have to build this team as quickly as we can." That's why a veteran like Matthew Stafford makes sense. But at what cost? Right now, Stafford has permission to talk to other teams and explore his value. He and the Rams aren't seeing eye to eye on his contract. He still has 2 years left on his 4-year, $160 million deal, which pays him $40 million per year. But here's the catch. Stafford reportedly wants more. According to Peter Schrager from Good Morning Football, Stafford could be asking for over $50 million per year. This is a money battle. Stafford wants to be paid what he thinks he's worth, and some teams might actually be willing to pay him. The real question is, does Stafford want to go to those teams? And what would they be willing to give up for him? Bro, for $50 million a year, would the Raiders still want to make that move? Now I get it. The salary cap just went up and the Raiders have more money to spend. But 50+ million for a 37-year-old quarterback? Man, that's a tough pill to swallow. Sure, the Raiders could afford it, but is it really worth it? Some people say, that's the price you pay for a Super Bowl caliber QB. And yeah, they've got a point. But is Stafford really in that elite tier right now? I don't see him ahead of guys like Aaron Rodgers, especially when you compare the price tags. Now, some fans bring up Rich Gannon, how he led the Raiders to a Super Bowl at 36. But here's what they forget. Gannon had an all-star supporting cast, Hall of Famers on both offense and defense. The Raiders could build a strong team around Stafford with cap space and draft picks. But does Stafford even want to come to Vegas? And even if he does, can he actually take this team to the playoffs or beyond? Let's put the $50 million aside for a second. The Rams still need a trade package. And according to reports, they asked the Giants for the number. 3rd overall pick in exchange for Stafford. Bro, if that's the price tag, is Stafford really worth it? If the Rams want the Raiders' number, 6th overall pick for Matthew Stafford, plus $50+ million a year, they're out of their minds. There's no way I'd give up that high of a draft pick for a declining quarterback, especially one who's been dealing with injuries for the past few years. Honestly, the best move for the Raiders? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Go after a veteran QB like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. They can do what Stafford does, at a way cheaper price. But if the Raiders don't want an older veteran, then why not invest in a younger option? Justin Fields could be a solid move. He's a better long-term investment than a guy like Sam Darnold. That's just my take. But what do you guys think? Would you trade for Stafford, pay him whatever he wants, and hope to contend in 2025? Drop your thoughts in the comments.